Bond. James Bond.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep! Sublime!
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Tear me apart, Lisa!
But mostly I hate the way I don't hate you. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Not even at all.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Hi friends, welcome to another episode of You Haven't Seen That? This is a movie discussion podcast where we introduce our friend Ben to movies he should have seen a long time ago. I'm your host, Amanda.
I'm Geoff.
And I'm Ben.
And today we are discussing Liar Liar. And we will be ending with our top 4 favorite movies of 1997. So be sure to stick around until the end.
Liar Liar, released in March of 1997, starring Jim Carrey, Maura Tierney, Carrie Elwes, an alumni of the You Haven't Seen That podcast, and Jennifer Tilly.
Friend of the pod, Carrie Elwes.
And Jennifer Tilly. Directed by Tom Shadyac, I believe is his name. $45 million budget and $300 million at the box office. If you want a true testament to the 90s and going to the movies, it's that right there. $300 million at the box office. This was, at the time, the second best opening weekend for a Universal movie ever, only behind Jurassic Park. This, at the time, was the best opening weekend ever for a movie in March, and it held that title for 5 years. Critically well received. It received an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 70 on Metacritic. And it was also recognized for awards. Jim Carrey was nominated for Best Actor in a Musical or Comedy at the Golden Globes this year. However, he did lose to Jack Nicholson in As Good as It Gets.
All right. Geoff, what's your history with Liar Liar?
You know, with Liar Liar, and weirdly, when I look back on a number of the Jim Carrey movies that kind of happened during this time, it's been a very long time since I've seen this movie. I'll admit there were a lot of plot points and plot beats that I didn't remember and couldn't quite put a pin down on, and still be caught by surprise when certain moments happened, especially towards the end of the movie. So when I log this on Letterboxd, I'll log this as a first time viewing because it's been so long. But yeah, I had only heard about, I'd heard about this movie. I knew that this was kind of in the prime Jim Carrey phase. So I was excited to watch it for this podcast.
And what about you, Ben?
I have not seen this. I realized when I was doing this that this is only the 4th Jim Carrey movie I've ever seen, which actually really surprised me because I feel like I know his shtick really well. But I think it's more from clips and things than from actual seeing the movies. The only other ones I've seen are How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Bruce Almighty, and The Truman Show. And so this was the 4th. I do remember this movie being in theaters and being a big hit because even though I wasn't watching movies, I was very into looking at the listings in my newspaper as a kid and, following the box office even back then through Entertainment Weekly magazine or the early days of the internet. And so I definitely remember this movie coming out, but I've never seen it, obviously.
Well, for having only seen 3 of his, well, now 4 of his movies, the 3 you had seen, I feel like,
yeah, they're
arguably are probably in his top 5. So
yes.
That's not too bad. For me, I'd seen this movie, I don't know how many times. I saw it probably close to when it came out and have seen it over the years as it was on TV or whatever. So yeah, unfortunately, just one of those ones I don't have too much of a memory of. So Ben, why don't you give us your score?
Yeah, I feel like I enjoyed this, but I don't think there was much to it. I'm gonna give it a 3.75.
And what about you, Geoff?
I feel very similarly to you, Ben. I like that the plot of this movie is just, hey, let's let Jim Carrey cook. Here's the outline. I'm going to give this a 3.5.
All right. And I'm going to give it a 3.25.
Okay.
Look at this, the whole gambit right there in the threes.
Right there in the threes.
I actually hadn't rated it until 2 minutes ago. So
I love when that happens.
I'm glad that I was somewhere around where you guys were too.
Yeah. You can tell that like this is like the Jim Carrey era though. Like it is just like,
Yeah.
like I feel like he kind of started to move into more unique things when he like a year later with Truman Show, and then into like what was it, Andy Kaufman one that I never saw, Man on the Moon.
Hmm.
But I feel like this was like when he was maybe a little bit past like Ace Ventura, but he was still doing like the Jim Carrey thing,
Mm.
big time. And I feel like this, in some ways, this almost might be like the apex of it, because I feel like, before that he was like kind of getting like those early ones like The Mask and Ace Ventura. I haven't seen those, but I feel like,
Hmm.
those were kind of more cartoony kid things. I feel like this was like kind of the peak of his like doing an adult movie, but still doing his Jim Carrey thing, like through and through all the way. I mean, he's so silly in this movie.
Yeah.
And but the other thing that really struck me, like my initial thought struck me, and was right from the beginning, is like once again, like, and we've talked about this before, but like the like scoring of 90s movies and stuff, like if you did a movie like this today with like, I don't know, like a Kevin Hart or I'm trying to think of like
Hmm.
some other like big comedian now, like there's no way it would have like that gentle instrumental scoring and like the kind of, like I don't know, like it has like a little bit of like a, the Jim Carrey parts don't, but like the like family stuff kind of has like almost like a who's the guy who did Home Alone?
Chris,
Um Chris
John
Columbus.
Williams. John Williams.
Well, yeah, I meant the director, but
Oh
yes.
yeah, like Chris Columbus.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's got like that, or like John Hughes to some extent. Like it's got like that kind of like softer vibe to it, despite being so silly at times. And I
Hmm.
feel like nowadays it would just be like loud and crazy all the way through.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I agree. This is definitely like not like peak Jim Carrey is in like his career, but like
Right.
peak Jim Carrey doing his thing.
Being Jim
Um,
Carrey, yeah.
Yeah.
and but like that's the thing. When this movie started, I was like, wow, this script is rough. These line delivery, like this is rough. I was like just not buying it. And then when it gets to the point where Jim Carrey can't lie and he really starts to like hit the stride in the movie, I was like, I don't care anymore. I'm having a lot of fun. Like this is what I came here for.
Yeah.
And those are like really the only parts of the movie that I really, really remember is when he's just doing his thing and being crazy, but it's just so funny.
Hmm. He has a real knack for that physical comedy. The way he contorts his body and the way he contorts his face is so unbelievable. And yes, this
Mhm.
is right in the heart. I had to look it up before this movie, but his run before this was Ace Ventura, his breakout role in 1994, then The Mask, then Dumb and Dumber, then Batman and Robin, then Ace Ventura 2, then The Cable Guy, then this, all in 3 years. And then the very next movie after this was The Truman Show. Like, that is 4 years of just being front and center star in this sort of comedy space and essentially creating the mold for what we see today as, slop on Netflix per se, and anyone trying to mimic it. And it's unbelievable the power that it has, and it still hits. Like that's the thing, is that real highlights of this movie, like Amanda said, is that those moments where he has to be crazy, he has to be ridiculous. The movie centers on him and everybody else just kind of plays along. It is unbelievable to behold.
It reminded me a lot of Jingle All the Way.
Yes.
Because it was like the absent father, the little kid. But for me, I enjoyed it more because I liked Jim Carrey more than Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Hmm.
but I felt like it had a very similar plot in some ways.
Dad
Like,
letting kid down,
yeah, the wife
trying
being
to.
frustrated with, well, in this case, the ex-wife being frustrated.
Hmm.
Um,
See, I also got a lot of uh Mrs. Doubtfire. Like not
um,
necessarily in like the father figure like letting him down or being, not present, but the divorce and
yeah,
I mean
yeah.
just Jim Carrey and Robin Williams, like they're both, when the bloopers for this ran at the end, I was like, yeah, there's probably so much footage of Jim Carrey just being ridiculous that they couldn't use. Just
I
like
like that
Robin
they did that
Williams.
for a movie like this because,
Yeah, you need it.
yeah.
Yes, you really do. Also, Ben, when you said this movie was like Jingle All the Way, I literally said that to Amanda verbatim while we were watching it. She can attest that I said, this is just like Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah,
And that's
he
where
said-
it kind of surprised me in the same way things like Jingle All the Way and even Happy Gilmore when we did that, like that I was surprised that there were softer moments because all you ever think of when you see these are like the crazy moments and what you've seen in advertisements and stuff. And you think of Jim Carrey just doing his Jim Carrey thing, but there is like a softer story connected to it
Yeah. Yeah.
with the kid. Not that it was like super compelling, but it just, it wasn't like all at a 10 all the time. Like,
Yeah.
even though he was.
It was when he was talking about his promises or something that Geoff brought it up, and I was like, always keep your promises if you want to keep your friends. Says Turbo Man.
And I feel like you almost just like with Jim Carrey, it's almost like you can be annoyed by him, but he kind of just forces you to like give into it at some point. Like it's just like it's like this sheer like just will of just like, you know, just giving it 110% in every moment, even when it's not that funny or not that. It's like he just will go a little extra step just to make sure it gets a laugh or gets a, you know, some kind of moment when, you know, like you said, Amanda, like the script isn't anything special and the, you know, what it's not like a high production value movie or anything. It's just like he just like gives it his all the time. Like you almost have to just like let it, give in and just be like, yep, okay.
Yeah.
It's what makes the relationship that his ex-wife has with her boyfriend at the time even like hit that much harder in terms of the stark differences between the two, and then highlighting, is she leaving him, Fletcher, because of whatever, or is she trying to just basically marry the anti Fletcher, or does she actually like this guy? Like there's a whole other element to it that makes you think about it and everything. So no, it really is funny.
It's ultimately like a sitcom episode though.
Yes.
Like it is like, like Bewitched did episodes like this, like I Love Lucy did episodes like, like where a character has to tell the truth or gets a spell on them to tell the truth. And that's a 25-minute episode, like that's what this plot is. Like it's a sitcom plot.
It works though. Kind of. For the most part.
For the most part, and like you said, I won't be remembering much from it outside of the Carrey physical comedy. I can't even narrow it down either what my favorite bit from this movie was, because there's just so
Oh my gosh,
many.
there's so many.
Very hard to truly narrow down, whether it be the scene in the elevator with the woman in his apartment, to everything that happens in the courtroom, to everything that happens in his office. I can't narrow down what my favorite bit or moment or gag was. There's just so much, and it just escalates and escalates and escalates throughout the movie, even all the way to the end with the insanity and the unrealistic events and everything that happens there, when you really have to suspend belief there. But no, it's really hard to pin down.
A couple of my favorites, I liked the "It Was Me" talking about the fart in the elevator.
That one was good.
One of the other lines I loved was when, where did I write it down? Like he said, "I object because it's devastating to my case." The judge was like overruled. He's like, "Good call."
Good call.
The one thing I'll say too is like, and I think the movie sort of addressed this, but not totally. But I think is where like this plot, which is a sitcom trope, kind of falls apart a little bit, which is like, obviously you can't tell a lie, but do you have to say anything? Like, and I feel like it kind of addressed that when he like came back in with the injuries from the bathroom and was asked a direct question and stuff. But I feel like sometimes for the sake of comedy, they just had him say something, whereas being quiet would have been fine in the actual conceit of the wish.
Yeah, I'm sure. But
not to overanalyze a movie like this. But...
Yeah. No, I think that's why, like, on several occasions, it was usually the judge, but someone would ask like a follow-up question, like where he thinks he's gonna get away with the lie, and then they're like, because he was like, oh, an illness, and he was like, oh, that's so broad. Like
yeah.
But yeah, I loved most of the stuff. Anytime he was interacting with the judge was usually really funny.
Yeah. That was the judge was my like second favorite character, actor, whoever in the movie easily.
And he died
Just-
right after this movie.
Oh,
Oh, sad.
And it was dedicated to him. Yeah.
Sad.
He died, I think, before it was even released.
Dang. Didn't even
that's
get to see
unfortunate.
his funny. Well, I don't know if you would have watched it anyways, but yeah, the judge was really good.
Judge was great. Just so over it. Unbelievably over it.
I was thinking about the speeding scene, which I've seen that scene before. But I was thinking about how different that is when I get pulled over. Oh, I have no idea why you pulled me over. I feel like that's everybody. Like, makes you realize like how many little lies you tell in a day. Like,
Right?
you know.
Seriously.
That was very funny. 'Cause he was like, it depends on how long you were following me. But yeah, I mean, when he was explaining to Max like all the reasons that adults have to lie, that was also really funny when he was well, not funny and not funny when he was talking about his wife and was like, Mommy gained 40 pounds and Daddy was scared. um But yeah, it's like when he's outlining all the different ways that adults need to lie, and it's like, well, do
And
we
it is
need
true.
to
Like
lie?
everybody does little stuff like that, you know, like
Mhm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
like when they get pulled over, when they, you know, and then I think
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
like certain, I feel like there's like certain societal things that we've just like accepted,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
You don't
lying is
even
part
think
of
about
it.
it. Yeah, it's like you don't even think about it. Someone asks you a question, you just immediately lie.
Yep. How's your day going? Fine. You know, even if it's
Right?
been like terrible, or even if it's been great.
Yeah. How are you? I'm good. Are you? Are you really good? No, the world is burning. One of my other favorite things that he said was when he was in the courtroom and he said you gave her dog a sausage when he was like listing out all the different ways to say that they had an affair. I was like, you gave her dog a sausage. I was like, what even is that? I mean, I know what that is, but like just bizarre.
Wild. I always find it so impressive with movies like this when actors can keep a straight face when being in a comical situation. I think of the scene in the room with the other partners and heads at the firm when Fletcher's boss brings him into that room and he can't tell a lie and tells everybody what it is and everybody's laughing and going crazy and he's just going down the row like calling everybody out. And thankfully everybody at that partners table has to laugh and get along and everything like that. But then his boss, I forget her name, Miranda, sorry. When Miranda is there and standing there, he like laughs right in her face and things like that. And just she has to play it so straight. Whenever I see that in movies, I find that so impressive. I can't believe more people or how many takes I would have taken in order to get them not to break. I just think back to like when I was doing theater, even in scenes like that were serious and I had to stare somebody in the eyes, like that would still get me to break.
Right. Well, we don't know what take that was.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's a good
Right.
point.
And sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes I think it's easier than other times. Sometimes you just like, I don't know, you just get the giggles
Yeah.
because
I
of
mean, that's what I've
something and
noticed
it's
when I direct. Like, it's like there can be some really funny things that happen, but it's like once you get them once, then it is like really hard to get back.
yeah. Like we just recently watched like a bloopers like compilation from The Office, and you know you'll see them do the same scene
Yeah, it's
like
like
10
once
different
they've
times.
gotten it tickled, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah.
It's like you can't come back from it. You need to just like have a break and try to do it again later.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I feel like too, like, and this is kind of standard for this kind of movie, but like, you know, the wife is kind of a wet blanket, you know, although they do an okay job with her, but I feel like she's playing the same thing that so many of these wives play in so many of these movies.
Mhm.
Which is why I loved Sally Field and Mrs. Doubtfire because I felt like it was they gave her more in that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But then the real like thankless role is Carrie Elwes, like, like such a
Yeah.
vanilla nothing character. Like,
He has to be such a wet
Absolutely.
blanket. He's got his own nickname for Max.
yeah,
Weird,
like,
just obsessed with baseball. Like maybe it's because
Yeah.
Max is obsessed with baseball, but he is just so obsessed with baseball. It's insane,
And he was fine in it, but like, what a nothing character.
Yeah.
right?
So bland.
The claw, his own rendition of the claw took me
Oh
out.
yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
great.
He just did one finger. It's
I
like,
also
oh,
loved his
goodness.
Jim Carrey. He's like, Jerry, enjoy my wife.
So good. Yeah, I could not for the life of me figure out why Jerry was calling Max Gripper. Like that was his like nickname for him, and why
Gipper or
Flet
grip? Was it
Gripper.
Gipper? Was it Gripper? Okay, I thought
Or
it was.
wait, Gripper or Gipper? Oh yeah, sorry, Gipper. It doesn't make a difference. It's still ridiculous.
It's
Isn't,
wild.
And
well,
then
isn't Gipper like a famous like Ronald Reagan was nicknamed the Gipper? It was
I
like a
don't know.
sports thing.
I've never heard of that, but it's ridiculous. But then why was Fletcher calling Max creep and creepy? Like I was like, why does everyone have these weird name nicknames for this child? Just call him Max.
The Gipper was a college football player, and
Mm.
then Ronald Reagan played him in a movie, and so when Reagan was running for president, there was win one for the Gipper. Now I don't know why this kid is called that, but
I was gonna say that seems like an odd choice of a nickname for a 5-year-old.
speaking of the boy, I thought that
The boy.
the
Max.
Gipper, I thought,
Creepy.
I thought that because the very beginning had him like saying liar instead of lawyer or whatever.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I thought that the wish he made was that my daddy wouldn't be a liar anymore, but he meant lawyer.
Mm.
And then it turned out that wasn't the wish. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
the wish was just that my daddy would stop telling lies.
Mhm.
But I thought like there was like he was like in his head he said because he mixed up liar and lawyer. I was like maybe he wants his dad to stop being a lawyer so he spends more time with him. So I
Right.
thought he said it wrong and said I want my dad to stop being a liar but meaning lawyer. And I was like, oh, that's clever. And then he's like, oh, I wish you'd stop telling a lie. And I was like, oh, I was way wrong about this.
Well, I think in the beginning too, I don't think he accidentally mixed up liar and lawyer. I think he was
That's
purposefully calling him a liar.
But the teacher thought he was talking about a
Right.
lawyer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like,
Which
oh,
he
thank
is.
God.
So it's like, yeah.
Meanwhile,
She
Max is
was-
just like, all right.
Yeah. All of her lines were like, what? Also, when Jim Carrey just like showed up at the school and walked into the classroom and was like, hey, can I have Max? I was like, wow.
This
The
was the 90s. This was the 90s.
What a time. A parent can just walk into a school and just walk into a classroom and be like, I need my child. Thank you.
Things
Or
were different.
or they're serving alcohol before flights, and like you pointed out, Amanda, when we watched it, like at the end of the movie, like, oh, you can have alcohol before flight. You can do all of this. Yeah, it's just so 90s.
Well, I don't know if you even could do that in the 90s. It just seems impractical to serve people drinks before takeoff. Right?
I don't know.
Like,
It was the 90s. I don't know
they
what
were
to tell you.
on they were on the runway. Flight attendants need to be strapped into their jump seats at that point.
Did they in the 90s? Who knows?
They're not out here serving alcohol. I don't even want to get into everything in the scenes at the airport that happened that is just absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah. I do feel like the ludicrousness of the resolution was like part of a little bit of what bothered me, but also like because it was absurd. Like it was an absurd ending. But
Yeah.
then it also like I also don't know that he like did he really redeem himself as a father? Like I don't feel like he did. Like,
Right? Oh, let me just try and like make up for this promise that I broke and just go to the absolute extreme. I think if Max was maybe a little older and a little more mature and a little more hurt by his dad, he wouldn't have forgiven him so quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were even a couple times when Jim Carrey would say something like about Max, like when he would say like I love him or I want to call him or spend time with him, and then he would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's actually true," because I wouldn't be able to say it otherwise. And I'm like, "Wow, you're such a bad dad." Like
Horrible.
Yeah, I was like it's not like he like suddenly became a great dad or like, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
we have to assume that over
And
the
it was like
course
the
of that,
choices he was making were very self-involved compared to like maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way, where it was more about like actual work. Whereas this was
Mhm.
about like screwing around with, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Missing your son's birthday party to have,
right.
I was gonna say an affair, but they're not married, so it's not an
Oh,
affair,
yeah.
but still.
Yeah.
One night stand sort of
Same,
situation.
same.
Yeah, same. Fun fact: this is the second Jim Carrey movie in which he has taken a Max character for granted and then come around by the end. Shout out to the Grinch.
I was like, are you talking about the Grinch?
I am talking about the Grinch.
It's not a lot of times, but it's weird that it's happened twice.
If I had a nickel for every time, I'd have two, which is weird. Not a lot, but
Since we aren't doing Jim Carrey movies at the end because I had only seen four, what is your favorite Jim Carrey performance?
I think my favorite Jim Carrey performance, is either between The Grinch or, oh, I would go Eternal Sunshine. It's either between The Grinch or Eternal Sunshine with a close honorable mention to The Truman Show. I even think that even in his, I want to say later works, he's only done 3 movies in the last like 5 years, but like the Sonic movies too they're fun. I like his performance in the Sonic movies as well. He takes those movies from being just complete meh to actually being decent. And I appreciate the amount of effort he puts into every single one of his roles. I've very rarely ever been disappointed by anything Jim Carrey, but I would definitely say it's between either The Grinch or Eternal Sunshine.
I just have
I
a
would say
collective
Truman Show
list.
for me. I love the Truman Show.
Truman Show's good.
Love him in it. Love the movie. Love the concept.
Yeah. Truman Show is definitely at the top for me, I think. I don't really remember Eternal Sunshine, so I'm excited whenever we watch it for this podcast. But I remember kind of being like, this is what everybody likes.
I think that's fair. 'Cause
Um,
it seems more like a Kate Winslet showcase at times, where
Yeah,
she's given a lot of the color in her role.
yeah, for sure. I think another honorable mention for me would be Fun with Dick and Jane, which
Mm.
I think is overlooked a lot, but I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, if I'm a Dick and Jane, it's good.
Yeah. And The Mask. I like The Mask too.
I remember we saw The Mask in theaters, or just recently. Shout out to Alamo.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that was not that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
Talk about Jim Carrey physical performance.
From the little I know of that movie, yes.
Unreal.
Anyone have any other thoughts or fun things they want to point out?
I
There's
feel like we
definitely
didn't talk a lot about this, but I feel like there's not much to say about a movie like this when it's a sitcom episode. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I feel like we touched on all the important parts.
yeah.
yeah. No, I was just gonna keep calling out the base. I was so weirded out by all of the baseball stuff, like Hideo Nomo and Jose Canseco, and him wanting to be Jose Canseco in the game with his son with Max after the trial. I'm like, that has not aged well because of Jose Canseco's troubles with steroids and pop culture PR.
All the
Whatever.
simple 90s.
Yeah, no, right?
I caught his Canadian accent coming out big time when he said the word borrow at one point,
Mm,
which I feel like usually I don't catch that on Jim Carrey, but I definitely caught it here.
interesting.
I don't know that I knew he was Canadian.
He is.
Eh?
Eh.
I put in here like all these 90s movies like this and Jiggle All the Way and just like we've mentioned. I'm like, this is exhibit A, why millennials don't want to give into the work grind.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
were the children
Yes.
in these movies and had these parents, and now we're like, yeah, no, that's not for me.
I guess my question to y'all is, which would you rather be called, Creep or Gipper, as a nickname?
I think Gipper. I don't want to be
Yeah.
called Creep.
Gipper is at least mysterious in that a lot of people probably won't get the reference, hopefully. And they'll be like, why are you called that?
That's fair.
I don't know.
No, that's a good point.
Also, I really want to know how that woman was able to lie about like everything on her driver's license. And like,
Yes.
I mean, I guess it happens like especially back in the day. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like my dad lied about his age when he was younger so that he could go to the war, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
When things weren't as
how do you even
computerized, I
do
guess.
that?
I don't know, but
I don't know. Like, how do
yeah.
you even do that?
Yeah, this was also like Max Jennifer Tilly imaginable. She was really playing it up. I just kept thinking about her character from Monsters Inc. the whole time as she's sitting there in the courtroom and playing up lines. Yeah, it was fun watching her kind of just go all out in the comedy scenes.
Her character is just the worst.
The worst.
In this,
Oh yeah.
and her haircut is atrocious. I don't know, like, who decided that that would be the haircut of a wealthy, sexy, desirable woman, but
Right?
they were wrong. They were very wrong.
Crazy. It was funny how they, in very kind of typical fashion for a movie like this, in the case sort of situation, you basically had to play it all the way to the extremes at the end of this. I also like the kind of the random plot hole about the license play. I don't remember if we were had talked about that or mentioned that at any point during the movie. I hadn't quite caught that, but I was like, oh well, that's convenient as he pulls out the license there at the end. But
Hmm.
I can't remember if that was ever brought up.
I don't
Like in the
remember.
movie?
Yes, like before the final like shoe fell.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We didn't really hear anything about the case outside of when he first took it and created the fake story of, how they were going to play it in court.
Right.
That was really all we got. So,
Fair enough. Also, the birthday parties, beginning and end. Very, very stark difference in birthdays situation.
Yeah.
Also, is this because I want to know what Fletcher's job is kind of now a year later. Is it just he's that far away from law and wanted to get as far away from that sort of high profile world as possible that he can't afford to, have a semi-depressed clown at a birthday party and a full house full of people? I don't know.
I mean, I want to know how he's not still in jail. I think what he did would give the average person way more than less than a year. But maybe it's because he
Yes.
knows some good lawyers. I don't know.
Old contact came through. Who knows?
I guess. I don't know. All right. Are we ready?
All right. Yeah.
I think we are.
Okay. All right. So Jeff, hit us with your movie recommendations. What should our friends be pairing with Liar Liar?
So I think the first movie to pair with Liar Liar is Ace Ventura. The first one. We'll go with that one. The first movie between this director and Jim Carrey. Big hit. Spawn sequel. Very memorable. I think it's, of all of the Carrey movies, this is the breakout. This is the first real notable one that really launched his brand of comedy. Definitely think you should pair it with this. We've already said one of them, and this is Doubtfire. I could basically substitute any sort of movie like that in here. You could throw in Jingle All the Way, like we talked about, or even a movie like sorry to bring up the Christmas theme, but the Santa Claus was also another one that I thought of weirdly with this as well. So maybe because of the annoying kid, I don't know, with the nickname, but no, Mrs. Doubtfire, just because of the father relationship to the family. And then the last one is Big Daddy. Like a similar kind of comedian in a similar stage in their career around this time, and a father figure that has some heartfelt moments in it as well, along with the ridiculousness. I think Big Daddy is a good one to pair with Liar Liar as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all good picks.
Thank you.
What about you, Ben? Do you have any TV to pair?
Well, I did allude to this, but there's this, if anything, these are like sitcom episodes that would go if you are really into this vibe of having to tell the truth for a period of time. There's a couple Bewitched ones. There's a great I Love Lucy one that my son really loves. There's a Get Smart episode. A lot of 60s sitcoms did the have to tell the truth for a day kind of trope. So that was a very common thing. If you're talking about actual TV shows, or I mean, like as a show as a whole, if you're really into lies, why not Big Little Lies?
Yes.
There you go.
which is not at all a vibe like Liar Liar, but has to do with lies and lying. So,
All right. Yeah.
and the
Good
first
pick.
season's great, and the second season sucks.
I was gonna say I barely remember that show.
That was a COVID show. I watched that during the shutdown,
Oh, okay.
like so
Yeah.
many others.
I think I read the book.
But I'm surprised. I guess I'm not surprised they picked Big Little Lies. I think that's a great one to pair. I was originally going to think you were going to say In Living Color because of the Jim Carrey of it all. But
Yeah, I don't know In Living Color, and I don't actually know his other show, Kidding, on Showtime. I've never seen that either. Um, but yeah, those are both Jim Carrey.
I was going to say, kidding. Did he get nominated for an Emmy for that one? I know he got nominated for a Golden Globe.
I don't know if it was an Emmy. He definitely Golden Globe, but I've never seen an episode of that, so I can't really. I know it's like kind of dark, like as a show. It's not Jim Carrey doing his Liar Liar thing. He was nominated for a Golden Globe for it, not an Emmy.
Thank you. Sorry.
And the show was nominated for at the Golden Globes as well.
All right. There you go. Well, if you just can't get enough of Jim Carrey.
Yeah, there you go. I didn't want to recommend it, not having seen it, but you know.
Put your stamp of approval on it. Okay, so let's jump into our top 4 for today. Like I mentioned, we're doing our top 4 1997 movies. Which when we picked this, I was like, I don't know how many movies I've seen from 1997, but scrolling through the list, there were a lot. Kind of reminded me of when we did 1999, and it was like, wow, look at all these movies that came out in this one year. It felt very similar to that. So Ben, why don't you give us your list first?
Okay, you just never know who she's going to go to first.
Nope.
All right. So I had actually seen quite a few from 1997 as well when I was looking through the list. A couple that I didn't see that I would like to that could make this list. Probably the most obvious one that I feel like it could be on this list if I saw it was Good Will Hunting. And then the other two I wrote down that I've always wanted to see are Donnie Brasco and Gross Point Blank. I've not seen those, but I feel like they would probably be contenders for this list. My close calls are As Good as It Gets, which Geoff mentioned. Jack Nicholson beat Jim Carrey for was it the Golden Globes in this? I think you said, yeah, and I know he won the Oscar too. Jack Nicholson did. I remember enjoying that movie. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Air Force One with Mr. Ford and and Titanic, because why not? My top 4, number 4 is Hercules, which not one of my favorite Disney movies, but one of my favorite soundtracks to a Disney movie. So I think the music is just incredible in Hercules. And that really makes it for me, even though the movie was not like a favorite of mine as a kid. But I felt like the music alone deserved a spot on this list. Number 3 is a movie I saw a long time ago, but I would like to see again because I feel like I would appreciate it even more now, and that's LA Confidential. I watched it, I don't know, maybe I was in high school when I saw it. And I remember liking it then. And like I said, I feel like I would be much more into it now even than I was at the time. So I put it on there partly because I remember liking it and partly because I know I would enjoy it now. Number 2 is Air Bud.
Air Bud.
And I don't even care what anybody says. I loved this movie. I saw it in the theaters with my brother and my grandma back in 1997. And I loved it. I've not watched it in a very long time, obviously, but it was definitely a movie I adored as a kid. So that's number 2. I liked it more than Hercules as far as kids movies go. And then number 1, which was released at a festival in 1996, but was released in theaters in 1997, is my all-time favorite movie, Waiting for Guffman, which came out in January of 97. It's technically, I think, a 96 movie because of the festival release, but I'm not counting it since it came into theaters in 97. So, as we mentioned in the very first episode of the podcast, that's my all-time favorite movie. It's about a small town putting on a musical for its 150th anniversary, or mockumentary, truly hilarious. I could quote it basically from start to finish, and I never get tired of it. So that's number 1. And I didn't actually realize it was 1997 until like when we decided to do movies from 1997. But then when I saw it on there, I was like, oh yeah, oh duh, easy number one.
As soon as you said that, I was like, "Oh, Ben picked it for that reason." He looked at the list
No,
and
I
was
did. I
like,
really didn't, but
I didn't even see it on the list. So there
no,
you go.
it did not. If you were looking by like box office gross, it was pretty far down on the list.
I was gonna say
Oh,
if you were
no, I
looking
was
at
just looking by release
Yeah,
date.
yeah,
it came out in January of '97. Only played in like 50 or something theaters. Like it wasn't like a wide release.
Yeah. I saw some interesting movies on that list, but yeah. All right. Well, good list. Geoff, hit us with yours.
So, looking back at 1997, I have a lot of blind spots. It's so weird when I looked at this list. The big one is Good Will Hunting. I know we said that during the Mrs. Doubtfire episode. It's a blind spot. It's an embarrassing one. There are a lot of movies on this list that are kind of on my what to watch list for 2025 into 2026. Boogie Nights, because PTA has a new movie coming out this year. Lost Highway in remembrance of David Lynch. That is on my list. Princess Mononoke just got re-released into theaters, and I own the Blu-ray, and I still haven't watched it yet. So maybe this is my motivation to finally get around to watching it. I haven't seen Jackie Brown, one of my big Quentin Tarantino blind spots. I don't have many. I mean, he hasn't released that many movies, but that is one of my blind spots when it comes to Quentin Tarantino. I haven't seen LA Confidential, and I know I would love it. So I have a lot of blind spots from 1997. So apologies if you don't see any of those movies in this list. My honorable mentions didn't have too many. Were Happy Together, a Asian film directed by Asian director Wong Kar-wai. It's a love story, a Chinese couple living in Argentina, kind of doing a will they, won't they, escape from communism sort of thing. Very heartbreaking movie in the way that it goes up and down and their will they, won't they in terms of their relationship. And then Scream 2, a great follow-up to the original. I loved Scream 2. I don't know what I could say. It's ridiculous, but also plays into a lot of tropes with these movies, with the kind of movies that Scream so expertly parodies and plays off of, and it's awesome. Great movie. Number 4 is The Game, directed by David Fincher.
I've seen that actually.
Hey, nice. Yeah, I just watched it for the first time like 2 or 3 years ago, and I loved it. Yeah, his follow-up to Seven, starring Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. Guy gets a birthday present, he's got to play a game for a day. And this game is wild and insane. It makes him realize a lot of things about himself. Very, very good movie. Number 3 is Hercules. I was obsessed with Hercules growing up. I think I wore my Hercules VHS out quite a bit. I loved the movie, gave it a rewatch a few years ago, still love it. It's awesome. The music is truly incredible. And a great voice acting performance from James Woods. Truly amazing in that villain role. Number 2 is Titanic, which I just watched for the first time like 4 years ago. And didn't realize the meme, it's been 84 years. That meme, I hadn't realized was from that movie. Blew my mind when she said that. I was like, wait, hold on, time out, pause. And crazily enough, Titanic lived up to the hype for me. It's insane how good it was. I was like, this is a 3.5 hour movie, and I didn't feel it even a bit. It's amazing. And the number 1, probably one of the easiest number 1s to determine in any sort of list or top 4 that we've done on this podcast. Number 1 from this year is Men in Black. One of the most important movies in my childhood, one of the most influential movies for me. One of the first sort of memorable movie viewing experiences that was ingrained in my brain by, my dad and my mom. And that movie is just awesome. It's so funny. Will Smith is a star. Tommy Lee Jones is amazing. And I know it's on the list for this podcast. And I don't know if Ben's going to like it. But you know what? I don't care. We've got to watch that movie sooner rather than later. Men in Black, number 1 movie from 1997.
Ben is definitely not going to like it.
I don't think I will. The one note I was going to comment on Titanic real quick. It must have been interesting to watch it for the first time so long after because I feel like at the time it was like everybody loved it, and then there was the backlash to everybody loving it, and people saying it was overrated, and I feel like all that separation from years and years later, I feel like a lot of people have generally kind of arrived where you are, which is it's a pretty good film. When you was it deserving of being number 1 at the box office for 20 weeks? Maybe not, but it's I think a lot of people have kind of landed where you did ultimately. It is a good film.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely weird to watch it so far after its release, and I agree with you, Ben. It's exactly how I viewed it. It was like, this is just good. This is really good. And the angle that it take, I mean, granted, it is the second half of the movie is devastating and truly harrowing and awful to watch at times.
I'll never
And
let go.
shut up, Rose.
I was like traumatized by that movie and not in the way that you think. Um, when I was in college, I worked at the photo lab at Walmart, which was right next to the electronics
I
department, as
remember.
they always are. And well, I'm telling our friends who might
I
not
know.
know this.
I know. I wasn't like I was just saying I remember when you worked there.
And so it must have been, oh, what this, okay, so I guess it came out in 1997. So it must have been like a, I don't know, 15-year anniversary or so. I don't know. It was some anniversary, I think, of Titanic. And so I think they remastered it and like were re-releasing it, whatever. And so literally Walmart on all their TVs in the electronics department would just show ads for Titanic like 24/7 nonstop. And so all day while I was working, I would just see clips of the movie. And of course they're showing like, I'm not showing very many of the happy clips from the movie. Like it's mostly the trauma. And I just remember being like, I'm never gonna watch this movie ever again. Oh, that's a good list though, Geoff. Good job. So for my top four, I did have some honorable mentions, and those include Flubber, because it was a good, funny movie. I have not seen that in so long though, which is why I couldn't justify giving it a real spot. Good Burger, which again, I mean, I grew up on Nickelodeon and all that, so I was big Keenan and Kel fan, and so Good Burger was incredible. And then Jungle to Jungle, which is Tim Allen, which I think we did watch that somewhat recently, Geoff. And I
We
was
did,
like,
yes.
I don't know if this is as good as I remember it being, but
We could do a whole like sub genre of our podcast of just watching movies from our childhood like that.
oh yeah, absolutely. So it wasn't terrible, and I always enjoyed watching it when I was growing up, so that's what gave it a spot.
Another movie to add to the father working too hard to give love to his son cinematic universe.
It's
Mimi-Siku.
always a son too.
Always.
Always.
Yeah.
Never a daughter.
Yeah.
That would probably have to be a mother.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
wouldn't make a father and daughter, right? I don't know.
Yeah, they
Whatever.
might, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. I'm
Yeah.
sure there is one, but
So my number four is Titanic. Again, traumatized. Don't like to watch it, but it is a very good movie. It's a really good movie. So therefore it makes it on the list. Number three is George of the Jungle. Geoff and I talked about this the other day. Didn't realize there were two jungle movies in 1997. Probably more than that, to be honest with you. But George of the Jungle, just classic, so good. I can't remember. Have you seen it, Ben?
mm-mm.
Okay, it's
No.
probably on our list then to watch at some point. I hope it holds up. That's all I have to say about that. It's been a hot minute.
The first movie that ever made me cry on our Coco episode, if y'all remember, y'all remember that one.
Number two, the greatest Disney movie that was never a Disney movie, Anastasia. I love that so much. And I think it was not until I was older that I actually realized that it was not a Disney movie, because I just thought that it was. But talk about a movie with incredible music, and just all of it. So good. And then number one, an actual Disney movie, Hercules. For all the reasons Geoff said. Just incredible. Sorry you didn't like it that much, Ben.
I love the music.
Yeah, music's great. They're working on a musical for that, right?
They have had a not on Broadway, but they've done one in the UK, and like they've done some regional stuff with it. So I imagine it
Oh,
will
okay.
at the very least get released like at some point for amateur groups. But I think it's not out of question it would come to Broadway at some point.
I mean, it makes sense. Alrighty. Well, that was fun. If all of you at home want to watch along with us next week, we will be definitely changing up the tone a little bit. We're going to be watching The Terminator, or for all of my hardcore Disney fans out there, The Terminator. From It's Tough to Be a Bug.
There's like 5 people who got this, and all 5 of them are crying at the thought of It's Tough to Be a Bug closing.
Is it closing?
It's already closed.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're putting something else
Well,
there,
I'm glad I saw it.
along with all of Dino Land.
Well, that's okay. Dino Land felt like I was gonna say like a fossil.
Hey.
Dino Land felt very
Dinosaur.
tired to me when I was there.
Dinosaur is still open through the end of the year.
Okay.
It might still be open when you go next year.
It felt
Maybe?
kind of sad to me walking through it the last time. I was like, this feels like it was really cool in 2000.
Yeah.
I have heard someone explain like what the theming of Dino Land actually is, and outside of like dinosaurs, right? Because each land has like
I
a
was
very
gonna say, like, isn't it very clear what the theme is?
well, no, but they all have like a backstory and
Okay.
like all this stuff. So when I heard someone actually explain like what the backstory was to Dinosaur or to Dino Land, and look, I couldn't tell you what it was. I don't remember. But I remember thinking to myself, oh, like this makes a lot more sense. And it actually made me like appreciate it a little more. However, I think that if the success of your land depends on whether or not people know the backstory, like people need to be
Yeah.
able to enjoy it and see the value whether they know the backstory or not, because your average Joe Schmo going to Disney is not going to know what the backstory is. So anyways, that's my 2-minute Disney rant. Where was I? Yeah, so we'll be watching The Terminator. So be sure to watch that so you can be up to speed with us and what we're going to talk about. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving us a rating or review, and be sure to follow us on all our social channels. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see y'all next week.
To infinity and beyond!
Why so serious?
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.